The city of Talent, Oregon, was one of the places hardest hit by the fires this week. Now its residents are trying to recover after flames leveled entire neighborhoods. Sandra Spelliscy is joining us now. She's the city manager of Talent, Oregon. First of all, my heart goes out to you and everybody there who have just lost so much. Can you give us a sense of the scale of the damage in your city?
Yes, we've lost approximately 500 to 600 structures, most of them residences, many of them belonging to people of very modest means or seniors or communities that work in the agricultural industry here. So people who will have a much more difficult time recovering from this type of destruction and tragedy than some others. So we are still in the early days of determining whether or not we're going to see much in terms of loss of life or other injuries. We're hopeful that's not the case. But in those burned out areas, we're not talking about anything that is recoverable, as you can see from your photos. It's piles of twisted metal and ash. So it's a huge blow to our community, and it's going to be an enormous challenge to bring our community back.
And I understand that you're not even able to be there right now. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about how quickly it rolled into town? I've been reading reports of people who were forced to flee without even having a moment to go home from their jobs, to grab mementos, or even beloved pets.
I actually have been able to be back into the city. I was unable to get there the day the fire started. I live about 2 blocks from the place where the fire actually started, and was advised to come home to evacuate. We did return home and packed up some things. I live about 5 miles from my office in Talent, and by the time we had come home, thrown some things in the car, and turned around to get back, we were unable to find a way to get into Talent. So the fire moved from the north of the city of Ashland, which is where I live, onto Talent, which is about 5 miles away, and within a couple of hours, the city was beginning to be hard hit by flames, and it lasted throughout the day and night on Tuesday. And it was difficult for people to have a lot of warning, and evacuation was difficult as well. There was a lot of traffic on local roads, and the interstate was closed, so that made it additionally difficult to move around. But we had very heroic efforts on the part of our first responders and law enforcement teams. And again, we're hopeful that we saved as many lives as possible.
I've read that approximately 600 homes have been destroyed, that power and drinking water have all been knocked out. Any sense of when your town can actually start to rebuild? Can people live there right now?
Well, there's an interesting configuration. We have a main corridor through the town. It's called Talent Avenue. Almost everything south of Talent Avenue was destroyed or heavily damaged. That would be east of Talent Avenue. To the west of Talent Avenue, the town is more or less unscathed. So people have actually started returning to homes. We do have water service back up, but it's not safe to drink. So there's a water boil advisory in effect. As you can see from these photos, all of our power infrastructure was heavily damaged. So it's going to be many days before we have power back to those in the city. And so our earliest response will be getting infrastructure back up and running. That's what we're focusing on now. And when that's completed, we will start to turn towards rebuilding and what that will look like for Talent.
Can you give us an update on the search for people who are still unaccounted for?
The last I heard, there were about 50 names that had been turned into 911 or the sheriff's office of folks that were unable to be located. We expect that number to rise and then fall again as people start returning to homes or have access to phone or internet and can get in touch with their loved ones. There were not centralized places for people to evacuate to, so that people are scattered throughout the Southern Oregon area and even into other parts of Oregon. So it will be a number of days before we have a better sense of who is still missing that would have been in the fire area at the time, and then try to determine if we can find out what happened to them.
And as I understand, most people in your town don't have anything to return to. I'm wondering, for our viewers who are watching this right now, whose hearts are just breaking for you all, what can people do to help?
I know that the Jackson County United Way is collecting financial donations, also the local Red Cross. We're trying to get the word out about volunteer efforts to collect food, clothing, and other items for people. But I think the biggest thing will be financial donations, so that we can start to help supply those who are without everything some means to start to get their lives back on track.
You have so much going on right now. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with our viewers. Sandra Spelliscy, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.